What if I told you that Carl Jung discovered a psychological truth so powerful that when you declare it to a narcissist, they'll never be able to disrespect you the same way again? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you'll have 6 declarations that will completely shift the power dynamic in your favor. Are you tired of walking on eggshells? Tired of being guilt-tripped, blamed, or made to question your own reality? If you're dealing with someone who always needs to win, always needs to be right, always needs praise, someone who idealizes you one moment and tears you down the next, then this video is specifically for you. Whether it's your narcissistic boss, friend, acquaintance, neighbor, child, parent, or even partners, we've put together different proven sentences that can't break their control over you. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But what Jung discovered goes deeper than simple self-reflection. He uncovered the hidden psychological mechanics of how certain personality types, what we now recognize as narcissistic individuals, maintain control over others through manipulation. But here's what's fascinating, Jung also discovered the antidote. And I'm about to share with you the exact words that will break their control loop forever. But first, you need to understand why these declarations work on a psychological level that narcissists cannot resist. According to Carl Jung, narcissists operate from what he called the shadow self, the parts of their personality they cannot accept about themselves. They project these unacceptable traits onto others, making you feel responsible for their emotions, their failures, and their insecurities. Jung discovered that narcissists use a specific control mechanism. They create what psychologists now call a trauma bond. They make you question your reality, your worth, your very sanity. They do this through a predictable cycle: idealization, devaluation, and discard. Sound familiar? But here's the part that will change everything for you. Carl Jung found that narcissists have one critical weakness. They cannot maintain their false self when confronted with absolute psychological independence. And that's exactly what these declarations create. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." Narcissists cannot do this. They live in terror of being seen for who they really are. So they control others to avoid facing themselves. But when you make these declarations, you're doing something that Jung called individuation. You're becoming psychologically whole and independent. And narcissists cannot manipulate someone who has achieved true psychological independence. The first declaration I'm about to share with you is specifically designed for narcissistic parents or children, and it's so powerful that it immediately stops their emotional manipulation. But before I reveal it, you need to understand why it works. According to Carl Jung, healthy psychological development requires what he called differentiation, the ability to separate your emotions from others' emotions. Narcissistic parents or children refuse to do this. They make you responsible for regulating their emotions. Here's your declaration. I am not responsible for regulating your emotions. This declaration works because it establishes what Jung called a psychological boundary. When you say this, you're not being cruel, you're being psychologically healthy. Carl Jung discovered that people who cannot regulate their own emotions will always try to make others responsible for their emotional state. But here's what happens when you say this: the narcissist will initially escalate. They'll try guilt, anger, or silent treatment. This is what Jung called the shadow projection. They're trying to make you carry their shame. But if you hold firm to this boundary, something remarkable happens. Stay with me. When you consistently refuse to regulate their emotions, they lose their primary control mechanism over you. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists, but what you accept transforms." By accepting that their emotions are not your responsibility, you transform the entire dynamic. Number 2, Declaration for a narcissistic romantic partner. Carl Jung discovered that narcissists confuse love with control. They believe that if they can control you, they possess your love. But Jung said true love requires what he called conscious relationship, where both people maintain their individual identity while choosing to connect. Here's your declaration for narcissistic romantic partners. Love without respect isn't love, it's control. This declaration is devastating to narcissists because it exposes their deepest fear, that what they call love is actually possession. But here's the part that will shock you. When you say this, you're not ending the relationship, you're offering them a chance at real love. But most narcissists can't take it. According to Carl Jung, narcissists are terrified of genuine intimacy because it requires vulnerability. When you declare that love must include respect, you're demanding they show up as their authentic self, not their false grandiose self. This is why this declaration is so powerful. It calls them to psychological maturity they may not be capable of. Number 3, Declaration for narcissistic neighbor or acquaintance. Jung discovered that narcissists see life as a competition where someone must win and someone must lose. They try to draw you into their competitive worldview because they need to feel superior to someone. Here's your declaration. I'm not interested in competing with you. I'm focused on living and enjoying my life. When you say this, something fascinating happens in the narcissist's psychology. Carl Jung called it projection withdrawal. They've been projecting their competitive nature onto you, assuming you're as obsessed with winning as they are. But when you refuse to compete, their projection has nowhere to go. This declaration works because it demonstrates what Jung called psychological sovereignty. You're not playing their game. You're living your own life by your own rules. And narcissists cannot manipulate someone who refuses to compete in their psychological arena. Number 4, Declaration for a narcissistic sibling or extended family member. According to Carl Jung, family systems often enable narcissistic behavior through what he called unconscious collusion. Family members avoid conflict by allowing the narcissist to violate boundaries because we're family. Here's your declaration. We share blood, not boundaries. I define those for myself. This declaration is revolutionary because it separates biological connection from psychological autonomy. Carl Jung said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But narcissistic family members often demand you become who they need you to be to maintain their self-image. When you declare that sharing blood doesn't mean sharing boundaries, you're claiming what Jung called your authentic self. You're saying that family connection doesn't override your right to psychological protection. Number 5, Declaration for a narcissistic friend. Jung discovered that narcissists don't form genuine friendships, they form what he called narcissistic alliances. These are relationships where everything is transactional. They give you something so they can take something back, usually emotional validation or social status. Here's your declaration. From now on, I value mutual connection, not emotional transactions. This declaration exposes the narcissist's inability to form genuine connections. Carl Jung said that real friendship requires what he called mutual individuation, both people supporting each other's growth without trying to control or possess each other. When you declare that you want mutual connection instead of emotional transactions, you're demanding something most narcissists cannot provide, genuine care without strings attached. Number 6, Declaration for a narcissistic boss or colleague. According to Carl Jung, workplace narcissists use professional environments to feed their need for power and control. They create toxic dynamics that destroy team morale and productivity. Here are 3 different workplace declarations you can use. Feel free to pick one which suits you best. 1. I work best in environments where mutual respect brings out the best in everyone. This declaration works because it reframes the conversation around productivity and success, not personal power struggles. Carl Jung discovered that narcissists struggle when you redirect their attention from control to results. 2. Let's stay focused on solutions. It makes everything smoother for the team. This second workplace declaration is brilliant because it does something Jung called psychological aikido. You're using the narcissist's energy against them. They want to create drama and conflict, but you're redirecting that energy toward problem solving. 3. Your perception of me does not define me. This final workplace declaration is perhaps the most powerful because it demonstrates what Carl Jung called psychological independence. You're not trying to control their opinion of you, and you're not letting their opinion control you. But here's what Carl Jung discovered that will change how you see every narcissistic relationship. Narcissists are not actually trying to hurt you. They're trying to avoid feeling their own pain. But that doesn't make their behavior acceptable, and it doesn't make you responsible for healing them. Jung said, your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens. Narcissists are trapped in the dream of external validation. These declarations wake you up to your inner power. Here is why these declarations work long-term. According to Carl Jung, psychological change happens through what he called consistent conscious action. Every time you use these declarations, you're strengthening your psychological independence. You're training yourself to respond from your authentic self, not from fear or the need for approval. Carl Jung discovered that when you consistently act from psychological independence, something remarkable happens. You stop attracting narcissistic relationships. Your energy changes, your boundaries become clear, and healthy people are drawn to your authenticity. Jung said that true psychological transformation happens in stages. First, you become aware of the unhealthy dynamic. Second, you develop tools to change your response. Third, you consistently apply these tools until new patterns become automatic. These declarations are your tools. But Carl Jung warned that change is not comfortable. The narcissist will test your boundaries. They may escalate their behavior temporarily. Jung called this the healing crisis. Things often get worse before they get better. But here's what Jung promised. If you stay consistent with these declarations, if you refuse to return to the old patterns, the narcissist will eventually lose interest in trying to control you. Not because they've changed, but because you're no longer controllable. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. For too long, you've unconsciously accepted disrespect because you didn't know you had the power to change the dynamic. These declarations make the unconscious conscious. They give you back your power. They remind the narcissist, and more importantly, they remind you, that you deserve to be treated with respect. According to Carl Jung, the moment you truly accept your worth, the moment you stop seeking validation from others, you become psychologically free. These declarations are not just words, they're your declaration of independence. The narcissist may never change, but you have changed. And that changes everything. Remember what Carl Jung discovered, the most important question anyone can ask is, what myth am I living? Stop living the myth that you must accept disrespect to maintain relationships. Start living the truth that you deserve to be valued, respected, and honored. Use these declarations. Practice them. Trust them. Carl Jung's wisdom has stood the test of time because it reveals fundamental truths about human psychology. And the fundamental truth is this: you have the power to demand the respect you deserve. The question is, will you use it? Carl Jung said, Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The narcissist in your life has taught you something valuable. You are stronger than you knew, more worthy than you believed, and more powerful than you ever imagined. Which of the listed declarations are you going to apply? Let us know in the comments section. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it.